They line us up by honors cords and last names under the scoreboard lights. The air in the field house tasting like dust, plastic seats, and someone else's canned applause. My cap is pinned so tight it feels like a promise. The dean mispronounces 3 names in a row, and on the 4th, he gets mine right. It lands in the microphone and blooms through the speakers, a sound with my edges on it. I walk. The tassel flicks my cheek. I shake the dean's hand and feel the slick ribbon of the diploma cover under my thumb. Cameras blink like constellations. I have rehearsed what the day will sound like. A clean recording, no clipping, no feedback. A simple script, photo by the fountain, dinner at Grant's with family, the small announcement I've carried in my throat for months, the residency in acoustic design at Porthouse Theater. Not a surprise party, not a fireworks display, just a moment where my work is allowed to be loud. After caps fly and mortarboards thud, and an uncle I barely know yells "Summa," like he's ordering a drink, we funnel toward the banquet hall that smells like chafing fuel and achievement. Someone hangs a banner. Congrats. Amara, with letters that lean a little, like they didn't believe I'd make it. I did anyway. Auntie Miri kisses my forehead and leaves a print the color of a berry I can't afford out of season. The table is long, the napkins folded into that fancy bishop's hat shape that's all angles and performance. Mom is in chiffon and command. She's been directing since 8 a.m., which is to say since I was born. Dad laughs at all the right times and none of the true ones. My sister, Layla, swans in late, smelling like a department store floor and destiny. On her finger, a diamond catches the light with the arrogance of glass that thinks it's ice. I notice it and don't notice it the way a singer notices a cough in the second row and keeps hitting notes. I tuck the observation where sound engineers tuck hiss, behind the mix. The MC, because somehow there is an MC, taps the mic with an index finger. It pops like a heart skipping. The PA is rented and loud, and set just wrong enough to make the vowels smear. Mom thanks everyone for coming to celebrate our Amara, in a voice that wraps itself in my name without ever touching it. Then she smiles, that bright social smile that means she has an idea she didn't run past the person whose life it involves. And now, she trills, eyes wet with performance and pride, since we're all together, family, friends, community, we have another joy to share. My stomach learns a new trick where it moves up and sits under my tongue. Layla is engaged. The room inhales, the room explodes. Chairs scrape, champagne flutes ring, Auntie Miri becomes a maraca. The diamond throws laser lines on the ceiling and every phone flies up. The MC throws both arms into the air as if he's caught a bouquet that isn't his. I feel something in the mix go off, not an audible feedback. A familial one, the high, ugly squeal when a mic points at a speaker and a loop eats itself. This, my bones say again. My name turns into napkin fabric and falls. Layla cries pretty and covers her mouth and shakes the sparkling finger in case anyone is vision impaired. Dad claps like he invented the institution. Mom says the word finally in the way a person says home and means about time. A waiter pops a cork in a way that tells me he used to be a drummer. Glass clinks. The MC gestures toward the far table. And for the happy couple, he indicates the mic. I am in a dress with pockets. In the right pocket, my thank you speech. Handwritten, folded twice, smoothed until the paper behaves. In the left, my small card with the words Porthouse Theater Residency and start date July 1st, and I did it without the italics because paper can't shout. Mom looks at me over heads and flutes and camera flashes and mouths. Don't be difficult. Their code for don't be seen. I stand. It's not a dramatic stand. No chair scrape, no plate rattle. My knees unlock and the rest follows. I'm a tech before I'm a talker. I know where the cables go in any room. The mic sits on a stand no one has adjusted to the right height because the MC's idea of fit is good enough. I cross the carpet fast enough that it feels like walking on waves. In my head, a checklist. Gain staging, mic distance, watch for plosives, breathe. The MC winks at me like we're in on a trick together. He goes to hand me the mic without loosening the clutch so it sticks. I twist it free and it makes that small metallic cluck that is the sound of a thing becoming itself. Check, I want to say, but I don't. I hold it 6 inches from my mouth at a slight angle because this model runs hot. I speak. Thank you for being here, I say, and the PA buries the room in my voice. People turn, not dramatically, like flowers that notice sunlight late and decide they're allowed to lean. Thank you for coming to my graduation, I add, and the word my lays down like a cord that hasn't been taped yet. The MC shifts weight foot to foot. Mom's smile becomes a blade. Layla dabs at tears that now have nowhere to go. I keep my voice medium. Firm, not loud. I work in decibels and adulthood. I know the difference. And congratulations, Layla, I say, and look at her with all the love that isn't a performance. I'm excited to celebrate you. On another day, there's a sound that isn't a sound, the whole room swallowing at once. A baby makes an exploratory squeal like a sine wave. I don't flinch. Today, I say, is about this. I lift the diploma cover. It looks like a prop until the light hits the gold seal and remembers it's heavy. Mom inhales her name for me like she's going to use it to push me back into place. I'm faster. This is where I get to tell you something I've been carrying for months, I say. I got the acoustic residency at Port House. I start July 1st. I'll be building soundscapes for plays that will outlive us. The edges of my voice soften. I let the room hear that this matters. It's the work I love. It's the work I want. It's mine. Silence, the good kind, slides across the tablecloths. It sits. It lets the sentence land. It lets me land. I don't wait for applause. I don't wait for a response from the ones who turned family into a stage. I set the mic back in the clip and tighten it to the height I'd want if I were staying. I look at Layla and nod, a real congratulations in present tense, with boundaries. I fold my speech along the original crease and tuck it back into my pocket like a knife I didn't need to use. Then I turn. Amara! Mom hisses. Dad's laugh scrapes. I walk out under a banner that says my name and for once means it. The fieldhouse doors thud soft as soundproofing behind me. The air outside is ordinary. It tastes like rain that hasn't committed yet. I put both hands on the cool concrete rail and wait for the rush of regret. It does not arrive. The world hums at 60 hertz, as always. A sparrow argues with a lamppost. Somewhere, a compressor kicks on, the hiss leveling what's too loud. My pulse steps down from fortissimo to steady quarter notes. My phone buzzes. Nico. You alive? He's the night engineer at the community station where I've been cutting my teeth. A friend with a key and the right kind of silence. Barely, I type. Mom made a plot twist. I rewrote it at the mic. Leaving before dessert. Nico. Get here. We've got dead air at midnight. Bring your hands. I look at the heavy doors. I look at my hands. I go. The community radio station lives in a brick building that used to be a bakery and still smells like yeast when it rains. The lobby has a shelf of zines no one pays for and a poster that says "Don't feed the feedback" in a font that means it. The door to Studio B is fire engine red and scarred by decades of equipment corners. I swipe us in with the card I shouldn't have yet and do. The air inside is paper, warm electronics, last show's coffee. Blue LEDs hum. A condenser mic waits like a tall, simple animal. Nico is a slim silhouette behind the board, Dark curls under a beanie, a pencil in his mouth because he forgets it's there. He looks up, reads my face, and doesn't do the what happened thing. He pats the producer stool. Warm up the room. I slide behind the console. The faders are little spines under my fingers, vertebrae clicking toward the right position. I set levels on instinct. Comp gate. EQ, roll off the low end that makes voices woolly. Add a breath of air at 10 kilohertz so the consonants sparkle. I check the clock like it's a friend I trust even when it lies. 11:54. 6 minutes to midnight. 6 minutes until the jazz set runs out and daylight music returns or dies trying. Read, Nico says, sliding a legal pad toward me. 2 PSAs and a weather bit written in the voice of a neighbor who knows your name. I clear my throat. Not performatively. The kind of clear you do before you tell the truth. The headphones seal my ears and bring my breath home. I push the talk back. Station ID in 3, I say, to me and him, to the room, to the version of myself that needs instructions spoken out loud. Midnight arrives clean. I drop the fader on the sax the exact second the symbol decays. I punch MIC1 and say, "Good midnight." My voice goes out into the dark like a hand that doesn't ask for anything but a palm to meet it. We do the PSAs. We tell the weather the way you tell a friend that rain is coming, not in a voice that tries to sell them an umbrella. We fill 5 honest minutes with air that belongs to us and to anyone who happens to be awake. Then I fade up to a Billie Holiday cut I never get tired of, and let her do the heavy lifting while my nervous system untangles its cables. When my mouth is free, I tell Nico the quick cut, the banner, the diamond, Mom's voice, my pocket, the mic. He winces for the parts he knows and the parts he doesn't. He doesn't say I'm proud because he knows I don't need it gilded. He says, "You didn't feed the feedback," which is better. At 1:07, after a Nina Simone that makes my chest loosen like a not giving up, Nico hands me his phone. Dr. Sato is written at the top of a note like a spell. "Your 10 free sessions from the station's mutual aid fund," he says. "I already put your name on them. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you deserve a place to set weight down." I have friends, I say, because when I'm scared, I recite an inventory and call it a plan. "You have me," he says, "and also have a professional." Both and. I put the number in my phone under Sato, sound mind and make a joke I don't remember 5 minutes later because my body is busy memorizing relief. When the clock says 2 o'clock, Nico stands and stretches and says, "Time for your hands." We drag 2 panels of acoustic foam from the hallway and start building a better trap for the room's muddy corner. We staple like we've got a grudge, and we do. Not against the room, against the idea that we aren't allowed to change it. The staple gun thunks dull and satisfying. My shoulders remember what work that isn't performance feels like. I angle a panel and sound it out with a short whistle. The echo tightens. Less tail, more now. "Better," I say. "Better," he echoes. We grin at each other in the reflected blue of rack gear. By 4 a.m., my phone has 9 missed calls and a group chat that looks like a dropped casserole. "Rude. You embarrassed your mother. We were going to tell you after dessert. You made your poor sister cry. It wasn't the right time for your news. You're so dramatic. You ruined the mood. Their code for why didn't you hold the ladder again while we climbed you?" I type exactly 1 sentence to the family thread. "Congratulations, Layla. Call me tomorrow and I'll celebrate with you, but please don't use my milestones for yours." I send it and turn the phone face down, the universal sign for not now. Nico falls asleep on the producer couch with a coil of XLR for a pillow. I sit in the control room with the lights low and Billy whispering secrets I won't tell. I take my folded speech from my pocket and smooth it on my knee. It still fits. It didn't need a room of relatives to be real. It needed me. At 9:02, I dial Dr. Sato. A soft, ordinary voice answers. We set an appointment for Thursday at 3. Bring nothing, she says. We have chairs. It sounds like a joke. It's a promise. When I step outside, morning is already cooked. Delivery trucks exhale. The bakery next door is awake again. The city hums at the same old pitch. I carry home the smell of dust and coffee, and a night where I stayed instead of disappeared. I sleep for 3 hours in a room I pay for with work they can't see. When I wake, my jaw isn't stone. The message from Layla waits like a person who actually wants to be there. I'm sorry, it starts, which is either the start of a script or the beginning of a different language. I didn't know Mom was going to do that. I would have stopped her if I'd known. I'm happy for you. Tell me everything when you feel like it. I breathe. I text back. Thank you. I'll call tonight. Then, because I've learned it matters, I add, and congrats. Truly. I know how to hold two things. We talk at 7, both of us walking slower than necessary around blocks we know too well. She says the word boundary without making it sound like a fence around love. I tell her I'm scared she'll outgrow me now that the world she's aiming for comes with his and hers matching glassware. She laughs. Real, small. You're my favorite person to be boring with, she says. Don't leave me. I won't. Not while I can stay without being trampled. Thursday, Dr. Sato's office smells like nothing on purpose. The chairs are equally ugly, which feels like respect. She doesn't ask me to start at the beginning. She asks me where it pinches. Here, I say, and put a hand on my throat. She nods like she's handing me back a tool I dropped. Voice. We make a plan not of solving, but of stops. No money talk over text. 30 minutes at family events before I reserve the right to Irish goodbye. Mic practice in her office where she hands me a plastic karaoke-looking thing and has me say no 3 times in a row at a volume that doesn't apologize. Back in Studio B, I start teaching a Tuesday workshop for anyone who wants to stop being scared of microphones. We start with breath. We start with your voice belongs in air. We tape down cables with gaff so no one trips. We cheer when a librarian hears herself and doesn't hate it. The world lights a little different those nights, like the blue LEDs noticed me noticing them back. I file my acceptance for Porthouse on a Wi-Fi signal that came free with the apartment and an old router that sings when it's tired. I buy a used SM7B from a man who thinks he's underpricing confidence. I start building absorption panels for a home booth because I like the way mineral wool itches and then becomes something softer. If you put the right material in the right place, the echo stops lying. I write in the small gray notebook where I keep recipes for sound and survival. It looks like math. It is also mercy. Porthouse smells like old curtains and orange oil, like dust that knows lines. The first time I walk into the black box, I flinch like I've never seen empty before. The last row creaks like an old joke. The floor is scarred by feet that didn't watch their marks. It's beautiful. Armand, the head of sound, wears jeans with 1,000 pockets and a t-shirt that reads, "I'm not the DJ." He teaches with his hands. Signal flows here. Don't chase ghosts. Start at the source. Headroom is not optional. He also listens when I speak, which is a novelty in a room with ladders. When he hands me the keys to the equipment cage, he does it without a speech, and the weight is the right kind. Week 3, I'm given my first show to design. A small play about a woman who can't stop hearing the ocean, even inland. I build her a sound the audience can live in, long tails, low thump, a high shiver like a question you haven't answered yet. During tech, the director cries quietly on the back step and pretends he's allergic to something in the orange oil. Armand squeezes my shoulder once and not again because he's a person who knows when one is enough. I start going to Dr. Sato on Tuesdays like it's a class. We inventory scripts I inherited, and ones I wrote, and ones I don't want to pass along. We write house rules in a notebook I would be embarrassed to die without. Separate check, no card on file, leave before dessert if the mix turns toxic. No announcements on my milestones unless we discuss them. I'm not the AV department at family events. She has me read them out loud into that plastic mic that isn't hooked to anything. The room hears. I hear. My ribs relax. When Mom texts, "Need you to help with Lila's engagement party. Can you run the slideshow and sound and also the lights?" It would mean a lot. I close my eyes and feel for the place in my brain where the pressure waves stabilize. I text back, "I won't work the party. I'll attend for an hour if I'm invited as a guest." She replies with the expected, "Don't be difficult." Their code for your no is louder than I like. I put my phone face down and finish routing aux sends like a person who knows where choices go. Layla calls later. She's going to be mad. I know. Will you still come? Yes, on my terms. What does that mean? I sit at a table. I don't hold a laptop. I leave at 9. Okay, she says, and it's new, the way she says it. I build absorption panels for my apartment with Nico on a Saturday. We wear gloves and curse into our masks and decide on chambray for the fabric because it looks like something you can live with. We anchor them into studs because metaphors add nothing to the load bearing. When we're done, my bedroom sounds like a better version of itself. I sleep like a machine with a clean power source. I write a family treaty and slide it into a binder behind a tab labeled Terms. It's written as if we're people who like and respect contracts, which we haven't been and might become. No surprise announcements, no using my milestones, no billing me as the stagehand. If you say family table, I am family at the table. There's a line at the bottom for signatures. I bring it to Dr. Sato and she circles, I am with a red felt tip. That's the axis, she says. Keep it. Dinner with Nico and his boyfriend Denise becomes a ritual we call soup plus sound. We eat what Nico's grandmother taught him, and then we make a playlist of songs that make the walls behave. Denise is a structural engineer who looks at my panels and nods with approval that feels like a plumber complimenting your sink. The best kind. I teach a teenage girl named Rowan how to coil cables without knots. She looks at my hands and matches the movement. I didn't know you could be this kind of person, she says. And I tell her she always was. She just needed a room where she could practice. Porthouse puts my name on the program in the same font as the others. I take the paper home and tape it to my fridge because I grew up in a house where my name showed up on bills more than on praises. I don't apologize to the refrigerator for wanting to see it twice a day. Mom texts a photo of centerpieces for the engagement party. Peonies. I type pretty then delete it because it's not dishonest. It's incomplete. I type, they look like peonies. Remember, I won't run sound. She hearts it and then posts the photo to Facebook with 30 exclamation points and a caption about love that reads like a recipe with the measurements wrong. The night before the party, I pack my tote like a stage manager. Keys, wallet, water, binder, scripts, 2 granola bars, and the small SM58 I keep because venues always pretend they have enough. I slip the plastic karaoke mic Dr. Sato gave me as a gag into the inside pocket. It doesn't do anything. It helps anyway. At Porthouse that morning, Armand watches me label channels with a small smile. I keep meaning to ask. He says, "What made you pick sound?" I think of all the times their code for shouted in my head while my mouth stayed soft. I think of nights in Studio B where a woman heard herself and decided to keep speaking. I think of how a mic isn't magic. It's an agreement. I like exact, I say, and I like giving people a way to hear the truth without me in front of it. He nods like I've handed him a part he needed for something he hasn't named yet. In the afternoon, I go home, shower, put on a dress with pockets big enough for the binder, and walk to a party where the sign on the door says, engagement in a script that has never paid a bill. The banqueting room is a smaller version of the graduation hall. Less echo, more flowers. The family table is set with the same bishop hat napkins and the kind of cutlery that looks expensive until it bends under anything sincere. At the far end, a table draped in black holds a laptop, a projector, a mixer the size of a prayer book, and a chord chart of poor decisions. A volunteer in a vest is asking the DJ, "Where do I plug the slideshow into?" The DJ shrugs and points at the wall like electricity is a mood. Mom makes a beeline and kisses both my cheeks like we're characters in a movie where women love each other without history. "You look beautiful," she says. "They needed you at the AV table. Thank God you're here." "I'm not working," I say, smiling in the way that makes people think they agree with you. "I'm a guest." She blinks. She does not compute. "Just 15 minutes, she says. "You're so fast." The answer is no, I say. I say it at A weighting, around 60 decibels, in the frequency range where people listen without realizing they are. The word lands and sits and does not apologize for the chair it takes. She laughs in a high register, the one she uses for this silly girl. "We'll talk later," she says. Their code for I will try again when no one is watching. Layla arrives, cheeks cherry from excitement and maybe a little from saying no. I don't want a tiara to Auntie Miri. She hugs me like it's a thing that grows on its own. "You came," she says with a relief I'm trying to deserve. "I said I would," I say. 1 hour, then soup with friends." She grins like I told her the secret to years. There are place cards. Mine says Amara in Layla's messy, earnest handwriting. It is at the table. I sit. Dad sits across and starts a story about a deal he made with a man who thought he could sell him a speaker that hissed when it should have purred. He catches himself and stops mid-gesture. "I'm learning," he says, to no one in particular. Progress arrives wearing humility and not asking for credit. At 6:20, the MC, that same man with the too smooth voice and no grasp of levels, taps the mic to make it pop because nobody told him not to and he didn't ask. He welcomes everyone, calls love a journey, thanks our amazing family for their generosity, and then asks if the bride's sister, who is in sound, will help us get the slideshow up. I sip water. I don't move. I let the quiet ask its own question. The volunteer in the vest swivels his head like a dog who lost a toy and found a moral dilemma. He looks at me. I shake mine once, soft and firm. He swallows and figures out how to press source on the projector. The laptop decides to be kind. The slideshow rolls without me, and the world doesn't end, not even a little. The champagne toasts begin. Marcus starts to stand, then sits down, then looks at me like he's in a new country and not sure where the money goes. "Can I?" he asks, and the humble almost knocks me over. "Do you want to go before me?" "After," I say. "You're older by the 6 minutes Mom makes mythic." He stands. He talks briefly. The key word is briefly. He makes a joke about Layla's preschool performance as a cloud. He doesn't make a joke about me. The room laughs where it should. He sits. He meets my eyes and doesn't ask for praise. I lift my glass a little. He exhales. Mom stands. She looks like a person whose mouth built the world and needs it to stay that way. She thanks the florist and the venue and the people who made this vision possible. She says finally twice and deserves 3 times and never says work once. Then she looks at me in a way that means now. I stand, because I will not refuse to speak and then be punished for silence. I stand and take the mic from the clip because I know how to do it without making a noise that makes babies cry. I speak. "Layla," I say, and let the room lean toward us. "You are the funniest person I know under 25, and now that you're 27, I have to adjust the age band." Laughter, the good kind. Not butter knife clinks. The sound of people who get to be human. "I like that you ask for what you want," I say. even when it's weird and makes people who love you search for the right spice. Laughter, truer. Layla wipes her eyes, small. I'm not working tonight, I say and look at Mom so she doesn't mistake the sentence for anything but what it is. I'm here to eat a piece of cake and hug you and go home at 9. That's the plan. I'll make you a playlist if you want one. Later. Not now. It's the not now that lands right. The present tenses assert themselves like the stage directions they always were. And, I add, because there is always an and, I want this for you. A life where celebrations belong to the person they fit. Where announcements are asked for before they're made. Where sound carries truth, and not one person's echo. May you never be turned into a stage for someone else's moment, unless you auditioned and got the part. A silence like velvet. A joke would fray it. I don't joke. I set the mic back in its clip and tighten it because I was here. I go sit in a chair with my name on a card. I breathe. Mom's smile is a wire. She does not cut herself on it. The MC, bereft of drama, moves briskly to the next bit. Music swells from a speaker that has a ground loop I could fix in 30 seconds. I don't. I let the small hum keep me company like an honest ghost. At 8:55, I stand to leave. Layla catches my wrist and squeezes 3 times. Our code. I squeeze back. I love you. Mom opens her mouth to suggest something logistical. I kiss her cheek, leave a mark she can wash. 2 hours, I say, like I promised. Dad walks me to the door without overt sentiment. He clears his throat. I'm thinking of going to the men's group that meets at the church basement, he says, like he's asking me to approve an engineering report. I don't know. Maybe it would be good to listen. It's good, I say. He nods as if I just set a fader where it can do the least harm. On the sidewalk, night air rinses the flour sugar out of my nose. Nico texts. Soup's hot. Denise brought bread. We've got Billy lined up. I send back a photo of my place card and the mic with my fingerprints invisible on it. On my walk home, I pass a dive bar where a band is playing too loud for the room, and the singer looks scared of her own voice. I stand outside under the cigarette smoke and want to go in and turn the monitor down and the main up and hand her the sentence, "You don't have to fight your tools." I keep walking. I can't fix every mix. I can fix mine. A year after the graduation turned announcement, I'm standing behind the board at Port House for a ceremony that isn't mine. The stage is set for a youth showcase. Parents clog the aisles with pride heavy as tripod cases. A dad in a suit grabs the mic during intermission and starts to thank everyone from the guidance counselor to the person who invented YouTube. The stage manager looks at me, panicked. I do what the job requires. I fade him out and gently cut the mic. He looks toward the booth, surprised, then relieved. Later in the lobby, he thanks me for saving him from himself. "You looked like you wanted me to," I say. "I did," he says. "The healthy boundary is a clean fade." Dr. Sato asks me in our last of the 10 funded sessions. "What did you keep?" I tell her. The joy of good sound. Billy at midnight. The way Rowan coils a cable. The portrait of me taken when I wasn't performing. "What did you put down?" I tell her. Borrowed scripts, inherited duties, being the stagehand for other people's speeches. She writes nothing and everything. "Practice the boredom of peace," she says. "Your nervous system will think you left the stove on. You didn't." Layla and Caleb get married in a backyard under a maple tree that drips keys instead of leaves. Not real keys. Paper cutouts we made one night with soup and scissors, and a playlist that started with Nina and slid through time. The ceremony is 15 minutes. The vows say I will ask before I assume, and I will celebrate your days like they're yours, and I will hold love in the present tense. The only mic is a handheld that passes person to person like bread. The only person who touches the board is a volunteer who follows her own list and looks proud of doing it without me. There's a small moment at the reception where Auntie Miri tries to start a rousing story about my cousin's second book deal that turns into a pitch for his first. Mom catches my eye and chooses to let the story finish without turning the spotlight. Later, she hands me a narrow box. Inside is my grandfather's old dynamic mic, cleaned to within an inch of its wear. The grill still slightly dented from a family party where he dropped it in 1998 and laughed until he cried. The cable is new. There's a note in Mom's tidy print. It was always yours. I'm learning where to put things. I buy a frame for that welcome tent she wrote over the old reserved, because sometimes on the nose deserves a nail. I hang it above my small table where soup appears twice a week like a sacrament. Next to it is Sammy's sampler. I add a new line to it in green thread. Not your announcement. The letters are tighter because my hand knows itself. When friends ask me to mix their shows, I say yes when I have the bandwidth, and no when I don't. I draft a rate sheet that lists my value without blushing. I put boundaries included in the footer. Denise laughs until he snorts. On a Thursday, I run the Mike Courage workshop, and a woman in her 60s with a tremor that won't be scolded speaks into the room for the first time about the book she wrote and never showed anyone. She hears herself and winces and then smiles and then laughs. I didn't know I sounded like that, she says. I do. Her eyes are full. Mine too, quietly. There is no applause. There is something better. The sound of 10 people remembering a voice is not a miracle. It is a tool. At my next birthday, 30, a number that looks grown and feels like the same bones with different air, Mom asks if she can bring a cake. I say yes. She asks if she can make a toast. I say, no speeches. Dance if you want. She brings a cake with too many candles and a playlist where every track is something I showed her and something she found without me. We don't cut the cake until I'm ready. It tastes like sugar and the absence of performance. Dad texts a photo of a photocopied flyer, men's group, listening night, with a hand-drawn ear and a time. He writes, I went. I shut up. It was hard. I send back a heart, not because I endorse everything that happens in church basements, but because I support the physics of dudes learning a new volume. On a wet Tuesday, after a day that ran like honey through the board, no crashes, just golden slow, I walk past the field house where my name was bent into a backdrop and feel like I see the ghost of that girl at the mic. She's not pretty from this distance. She's precise. There's a way she holds the body of the mic like she trusts it not to bite. I want to tell her she was right. I don't, because time is not a circle. It's a room with good acoustics where you can hear what you said and live with it. I still get the tug sometimes, the urge to grab the folio, to be the one who fixes the ground loop, to volunteer for the chair no one claimed. The feeling of, if I don't, who will? I practice saying someone else out loud in my kitchen where the chambray panels make even ugly truth sound round. On the 1-year anniversary of the Porthouse gig, Armand leaves a note on the console. Your shows don't squeal. Keep that. I tape it into my Proof of Me tab, next to the program with my name spelled right. I keep the binder on a shelf within reach, not like ammunition, like a fire extinguisher I will be happy never to use. It has tabs that say terms, scripts, receipts, proof. It's neat. It's mine. It's not for them. It exists so that when my jaw buzzes, my hand has somewhere to go that isn't my throat. One night, Nico and Denise and Layla sit cross-legged on my floor, passing a bowl of oranges and arguing about whether Miles or Mingus is better for cutting patterns. The three of them pile into the kitchen to wash dishes without my asking, and the sound of plates and laughter breaks over me like surf in a room with no water. I stand in the doorway holding the old dynamic mic, not plugged into anything, and say quietly, "Good midnight." The apartment hears me and stays. I think about the field house and the MC, and my mother's voice filling cavities. I think about my sister's ring and my pocket and the way the mic felt when it came free. I think about all the times I didn't pick up the mic because I couldn't hear myself over the feedback loop of be easy, be glue, be good. I think about the 2 seconds between thank you for being here and congratulations, Layla, and how that gap could have been a canyon or a coffin and turned out to be a door. When I lock my front door at night, the key turns like a phrase learned by heart. The chambray panels darken to gray and then to the kind of black that holds. The city hums in the distance. My phone is on the counter, face down, silent on purpose. The SM7B sits where I left it, a black shape, a waiting mouth. I don't need it tonight. I get into bed. I listen to the air return. I listen to the quiet without worrying a shoe will drop. I listen to the part of the world that keeps humming whether or not anyone hands me a mic. And I sleep like a person who knows the difference between muting the room and losing her voice, between clipping and clarity, between applause that feeds something and applause that feeds on you. Some nights I do pick up the mic, on purpose. I say one line that's true and short and complete. Number. Or yes. Or I'm leaving at 9. Or I'm proud of me. It's never viral. It doesn't need to be. It just needs to be mine.